Hello everyone, in this video I'll explain to you how I made the mock suppressor for my G&G G960 SV, or in other words G&G's spring-powered AWM, or whatever, same thing. I'm specifically using the G&G G960 SV. You might have to modify this to suit your rifle if it's not that specific rifle, but we'll see. So to start off with, you're going to need some PVC pipe, which you can find at most plumbing or hardware stores, and it's really inexpensive. All the dimensions for every part you'll need will be in the description, and also I'll have diagrams up on the screen as we go along and at the end. So, you can always pause the video and note down what you need. Okay, so as I mentioned, you're first going to need some PVC pipe. You're also going to need some epoxy resin. You're going to need some pipe lagging, which will be ever so slightly wider than the pipe itself. You'll need 3 washers and some scrap paper, and obviously some spray paint. I use Krylon spray paint just because it's pretty good. It's ultra flat. The one that I use is also the camouflage series, so it's pretty good. I use it on all my guns and everything, so I'd highly recommend that. In my example, I cut the suppressor down to 250 millimeters. Any larger than that, and I just think that it looks a bit weird. Any smaller, I would say it doesn't really suit it that well. So I went with 250 millimeters, and I sanded both ends of the pipe level, and to make sure there was no, like sharp edges or any unfined edges on either end, so it's nice and flush. Next up, you're going to want to epoxy one of these washers to the end of the pipe. It doesn't, at this point, it doesn't matter what side you choose. Just make sure you choose one side and stick with it. I would recommend using latex gloves or any sort of gloves like that to protect your hands from the epoxy resin, because it's not exactly good stuff. And try not to breathe it in too much either. Okay, so you're going to want to apply a good amount of resin to the outside of the washer. That's like that rim on the edge of on the outside of it. And just you don't have to be gentle with it, and don't be you want to get a good amount on there because you want it to stay, right? You don't want it to fall off or something if you whack a tree by accident. So once you basically just squeeze that on, and then make sure it's flush. So what I do is I put it down on a bit of paper which is on the floor, make sure it's on a pretty level surface, and I just hold it down there, push it in, and just let it stand there until it's dried. That way I know it's going to be flush, and I shouldn't get any epoxy anywhere, and it's really easy to take off from paper anyways. So yeah, that's another upside to it. Okay, so whilst that's drying, you want to unscrew the end of your barrel of the suppressor where you're going to mount that suppressor. Take another washer, but this time you want to push it all the way to the end and make sure it's flush. There's a little, you'll see a little standoff point. At that point, it won't be able to go any further. So you want to glue that. You want to epoxy that in place. It's pretty self-explanatory here. You can just put some epoxy on the inside of the washer, or you can do what I done, whereas I put some on the standoff side and then pushed it to. So it was flat against it and the epoxy was on it. And then on the opposite side, I just went over with some resin and just filled in the gaps that were on the opposite side. And try not to get any on the thread of the end of the barrel, because it's going to be quite hard to get in, put it back together if you do. So try and avoid that if you can. I mean, you can always put some tape over it or something just to mask it off. That's another good way. What I want to do is place the barrel, the end of the barrel, somewhere down flat again, probably on that same bit of paper. Just keep it there. I mean, you don't have to hold it in place. You can just sit it down on the bit of paper and let gravity hold it in place. It's as simple as that. It doesn't take much effort at all. Once epoxy is dried, however, which will take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even longer. But it's not exactly, you don't have to wait too long, just until it's solid enough that it's not going to fall out of position. And then you can put another washer on the end of the barrel. So the last one was all the way up against that standoff piece, and now you want to push it to now you want to have one that's all the way at the end. That way you get a really nice, good amount of surface area. to cover, and the suppressor's not going to be wobbling or anywhere, and it's going to be fairly strong at this point. So yeah, you want to have that again. I'd recommend the same way. Put some epoxy on the inside of that washer, and don't be afraid to use too much. I mean, you literally can't use too much, because you can always sand it off if you think it looks bad. Like if you think what you've done is bad, like there are loads of lumps everywhere, you can always sand that off. That's no problem, because you're going to paint it afterwards. So yeah, do that. Also, you're not going to see that on the inside, because that'll be on the inside of the suppressor. So yeah, just don't be afraid to use too much resin. You can't really use too much. It's impossible. Once the epoxy is dried, because you're going to want to leave it on the paper again, so it just sits there by gravity. You're going to want to that's it. Now you're going to want to take that pipe lagging that you have, and you want to cut it down to the same side, the same width as the gap. So that way, when you push it in, that's nice and tight around that gap, and there should be a millimeter or two extruding above those washers. So that way, when you push it into the pipe, it is not going to move. Once it's in there, it's in there. Trust me, you won't even be able to take it back out. So that's how I done it, and I didn't even dry fit it. I just put the lagging on. You don't have to glue it down or anything, because it's tight in there. It's not going to move. Not going to do anything. So it's just there to give that extra surface area and to make that suppressor really sturdy and really strong. I mean, because now if you hit it against a tree, it's not going to come to bits like some people's suppressors do. So now once that's done, all you have to do is fit the pipe with your washer on the end of it to the that outer part of the barrel, and you literally just force it in there. You're gonna have to use a bit of force for this one to get that lagging in there in the pipe, because it is hard. Trust me, it's hard. I mean, you won't break it at all. Don't worry about that. But if you have to, push it against the floor or something. But yeah, it requires a little bit of muscle, and yeah, you literally can't break it anyway, so you're alright with that. And once that's flush in, so that last washer at the back where that standoff is flush to the PVC pipe. All you're gonna want to do is just put some resin around the edge of that little gap. There might be a gap there, shouldn't be, but there might be. It doesn't really matter if there is or isn't. Around that gap there, just to seal it off and make sure that suppressor is completely stuck onto the barrel there, and you should have no problems. I would say leave that to dry for the rest of the day, and that way when you go to paint it, the paint's going to stick perfectly, and when you go to put it all together, nothing's going to break off. So that's literally it. I mean, I'll give you all the information for all the parts and everything that I used after the end of this video. But right now, that's all there is to it. In total, this took me about 15 minutes to make, excluding the time for everything to dry. So, I mean, it really doesn't take that long, and I've never used PVC pipe before. Anyone can do it. If you like this video, please be sure to smash that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, remember to subscribe. Before I go real quick, I'm just going to show you a little montage clip of my rifle and how it turned out. And after that, that's it. See you in the next one.
You got plans, even dreams, but with your stance, your surrounding limit things. If we was born in a more adapted scene where the opportunity wasn't so far and in between, now A fish can swim in water, a lake or tank. Either way, them fins flapping, but emo got bigger things. From a choice to weave and rapping, paralegal flying planes. Start to nurse and dance and acting, to practice to meditate. No doubt you made a hope that don't exist in our space. A small corner to a scope, barely can point and locate. The fall standing for no stance, ain't no pedestal place. If it was that, then stepping stones would be better to take.